In the vast, shimmering expanse of the Galactic Empire's capital, a council chamber buzzed with the sound of triumph. Towering figures adorned in ceremonial garb flanked the Emperor, a being of immense stature whose presence exuded both majesty and menace. A holographic projection of the galaxy hung in the air, its edges dotted with countless planets marked as tributaries to the Empire's endless hunger for resources. Another gem for the treasury, the Emperor intoned, his voice a thunderous echo. He gestured toward an unassuming blue orb near the edge of the projection. Earth, they call it. A primitive world. Technologically stagnant. Their tribute will be collected like all the rest. A murmur of approval rippled through the council. To the Empire, Earth was an afterthought, a backwater planet barely worth the attention of its mighty fleet. Still, the system thrived on compliance, and defiance was not tolerated. The Emperor raised his hand, silencing the room. Dispatch a fleet. They have one planetary cycle to comply. Tribute or eradication, those are their choices. The chamber erupted in laughter, as though the very notion of Earth resisting was the punchline to an elaborate joke. Far away, on the blue planet itself, the laughter would soon be silenced. High above Earth, a fleet of Imperial warships emerged from the void, their sleek, obsidian forms blotting out the stars. Cities paused as people craned their necks, staring at the heavens in disbelief. The ships hung ominously, their presence a silent declaration of power. The Empire's envoy initiated communication. A colossal hologram of the alien appeared over major cities, its translucent figure casting long shadows over Earth's surface. Its voice, cold and mechanical, reverberated across continents. People of Earth, it began, you stand before the might of the Galactic Empire. We demand your compliance. Deliver your tribute, resources, technology, and servitude, or face eradication. You have one planetary cycle to decide. Panic rippled through the world like a tidal wave. Global leaders convened hastily in underground bunkers and fortified halls, their faces a mix of dread and determination. The situation was unlike anything humanity had faced before, yet it was clear that unity would be their only weapon against the overwhelming force above. The leaders pored over data, analyzing the Empire's transmission and the fleet's ominous configuration in orbit. A stark reality emerged: Earth's current technology was advanced but nowhere near interstellar levels. They had weapons, but nothing that could match the Empire's armada. They had strategies, but no precedent for a threat of this magnitude. Amid the chaos, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity could not yield. To do so would doom them to servitude, a fate worse than destruction. After hours of heated discussion, the decision was made. Earth's response would be simple, concise, and deliberate. It carried the weight of every human life, every ounce of defiance that coursed through their collective veins. A single word. The response was transmitted directly to the Imperial fleet. When the alien commanders received it, their initial reaction was disbelief. They replayed the transmission several times, certain they had misunderstood. It read, "No." The audacity of it left them stunned. In the Empire's long history, no species had ever refused outright without at least attempting negotiation or offering partial compliance. The envoy relayed the message back to the capital. The Emperor, seated on his towering throne, listened to the report with an amused smirk. Humans, he mused, rolling the word around as though tasting its defiance. Interesting. Very well. Let us show them the price of insolence. Above Earth, the Imperial fleet loomed ever closer, preparing for what they believed would be a swift and decisive conquest. Meanwhile, on the ground, humanity braced for what was to come. There was fear, but it was laced with a fierce determination, an unshakable resolve that had carried them through countless challenges in their history. They were not merely primitive beings waiting to be crushed. They were survivors, innovators, and fighters. And in this moment, their unity forged a singular truth: humanity would not bow. The Galactic Empire's arrogance had blinded them to one crucial fact. Earth was far more than it seemed. And the simple defiance of a single word was only the beginning. The transmission from Earth was brief, but it was enough to send ripples of confusion through the Imperial command. No, the single word burned into the minds of the Galactic Fleet's officers, a response so unimaginable that it barely registered. Laughter erupted across the command center. "How quaint," one of the commanders sneered, as if mocking the very concept of resistance. "The primitive species thinks they can defy the Empire." The Emperor's voice crackled through the speakers moments later. "Send the fleet to Earth. Prepare the punishment. We will make an example of them." His tone was cold, calculated, and dripping with disdain. To him, Earth's defiance was nothing more than a fleeting nuisance, something to be crushed swiftly and without mercy. Across the galaxy, the Empire mobilized its forces. But instead of a full-scale invasion, the Emperor chose a smaller, more focused demonstration of power. A contingent of battle-hardened warships was dispatched, led by one of the Empire's most seasoned commanders, Varric. His reputation as a ruthless tactician was well known, and his pride in the Empire's superiority was unmatched. Varric received his orders with little more than a flicker of irritation. A few rebellious humans and their defiance. "I'll show them what happens when they challenge the might of the Empire," he muttered, adjusting his helmet. His ship, a massive dreadnought, gleamed with the promise of absolute dominance. Back on Earth, the leaders of the world stood united. They had heard the ultimatum and rejected it. Now, they had to face the consequences. The news of the Empire's response spread quickly, sparking fear in the hearts of many, but it also ignited something deeper, a sense of unity and resolve. Humanity might not have the technology or firepower of the Empire, but they had ingenuity. They had unity. They had resolve. Among the world's leaders, one figure stood out. Dr. Evelyn Carter, a renowned military strategist and former aerospace engineer, had become humanity's guiding force in the face of this overwhelming threat. She was not just a brilliant mind, but a symbol of Earth's indomitable spirit. Her calm demeanor in the face of the impending invasion gave hope to all who heard her speak. "The Empire is underestimating us," she said during a global broadcast. "We may not have their weapons, but we have something far more dangerous. We have the ability to adapt, to outthink them." Her words were echoed by a chorus of action. Earth's defense systems, though outdated by galactic standards, were quickly reactivated and retrofitted with new technologies based on the small scraps of alien tech humanity had acquired over the years. Massive underground bunkers were readied, and a global defense network was established to track the movements of the incoming fleet. Despite their limited resources, the humans were determined to give everything they had. Each country contributed its expertise, from cyber warfare to advanced missile systems. The focus was clear: delay the Empire, cause enough disruption to force them to reconsider. The odds were slim, but that didn't matter. Humans would fight. Varric's fleet entered Earth's orbit, prepared to launch an invasion. The smug confidence of the Empire's officers was evident. "They'll fall in line soon enough," one muttered, watching as their ships encircled Earth. "Primitive creatures like that never stand a chance." But as the ships neared the planet, they encountered the unexpected. Earth's defenses, though primitive in comparison, were far more sophisticated than the Empire had anticipated. Satellites launched barrages of energy pulses, scrambling Imperial communications. Human-made drones, faster and smaller than their Imperial counterparts, darted between the massive warships, launching disabling attacks. At first, the Empire ignored the interference as a mere annoyance. But the attacks continued, slowing their progress, frustrating their attempts at communication. Varric's command ship, surrounded by a sea of smaller warships, glowed with rage. "Do not underestimate them, Commander," Varric ordered his officers. "These humans are more resourceful than they appear. This ends now." But as the fleet prepared to launch a full-scale strike, the humans were already a step ahead. They had begun to execute a strategy of their own, one that relied not on direct confrontation, but on disorienting and outsmarting the invaders. In one of the Global Defense Command Centers, Dr. Carter stood at the helm, analyzing data. "We know they rely on predictable tactics. They believe they are untouchable, and that will be their downfall," she said, her voice steady. the humans had studied the Empire's methods and were using their enemies' arrogance against them. Earth's forces would delay, confuse, and disrupt, buying them precious time. Back on the Imperial flagship, the tension grew. Varric had expected a simple conquest, but now his fleet was in disarray. Reports flooded in from his subordinates, weapon systems malfunctioning, strategic communications failing, and the humans, despite their so-called primitiveness, proving to be far more tenacious than anticipated. Ready the bombardment. The time for games is over, Varric snapped. Yet, even as he issued the order, something gnawed at him. The humans were not retreating in fear, they were holding their ground, and they were doing it intelligently. The arrogance of the Empire began to waver, but it was too late for retreat now. The Empire had miscalculated. They had underestimated Earth's ability to adapt, to fight back with every ounce of their being. And in that moment, the tension between the two forces began to shift. The Empire, once confident in its inevitable victory, now found itself confronting something far more dangerous than a few rebellious humans. They were facing a species willing to do whatever it took to survive. The Imperial fleet descended on Earth's atmosphere with brutal certainty. Massive warships, each one brimming with advanced weaponry, blocked out the sun as they moved into position, preparing for the bombardment that would crush any hope of resistance. The Empire's officers expected the planet to crumble under their might, an easy victory to demonstrate the futility of defiance. But the Empire underestimated one crucial factor: human ingenuity. The first attack came not from Earth's military forces, but from the planet's very environment. A series of small, coordinated strikes erupted across Earth's surface, as humans unleashed weapons they had developed specifically for this moment. Satellite-guided missiles fired from hidden bases in remote regions, striking with precision at the Imperial fleet's vulnerable points. Earth's defenses were not sophisticated, but they were unpredictable. Ships and structures designed for entirely different purposes were turned into instruments of warfare. An old industrial facility, abandoned for years, suddenly came to life, launching guided rockets with brutal effectiveness. The Empire's massive warships, which had once seemed invulnerable, found themselves assaulted by a barrage of unconventional tactics that the Empire had never prepared for. On the ground, human forces moved with precision and speed, using guerrilla tactics to their advantage. Earth's armies weren't just military personnel, they were ordinary citizens, coming together to protect their homes. In the chaos of battle, small units coordinated ambushes on the Imperial invaders, outflanking the larger, slower ships with a fluidity that caught the enemy off guard. Meanwhile, in the skies, a fleet of Earth-made drones soared through the atmosphere. Smaller, faster, and more agile than anything the Empire had, the drones darted between the hulking Imperial warships, disabling weapons systems with pinpoint accuracy. The Empire's commanders had never considered the possibility that their might could be so easily outmaneuvered by such humble machines. They were designed for defense, not to engage an Imperial fleet, but humanity's ingenuity turned them into deadly weapons. Earth's military forces, aided by a network of civilians who had taken up arms in defense of their world, continued to surprise the invaders. Hackers infiltrated Imperial communication channels, feeding the fleet false data and creating confusion among the attackers. Imperial commanders who had once given orders with supreme confidence now found themselves battling against misinformation and disrupted communications, unable to respond in a coordinated way. Amid the chaos, a key figure in the Imperial fleet, Commander Varric, could not believe what he was witnessing. His ships, designed for domination, were now being systematically disabled by weapons the Empire had never even considered. The reports flooding in from his subordinates told a story of frustration and disarray. "This is impossible," Varric muttered, watching as one of his destroyers, a ship that should have easily obliterated the human resistance, suddenly lost all power and drifted helplessly in space. "How are they doing this?" The question echoed across the fleet as more ships fell, each loss more humiliating than the last. The Empire had never experienced such resistance. Every strategy, every advantage they thought they had, was being countered with relentless determination. On Earth, the emotional core of the resistance became evident. Soldiers, civilians, and scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge and resources in ways they had never imagined before. The fight wasn't just a battle against the Empire, it was a fight to preserve everything that made humanity unique. As the battle raged on, the will to survive bound them together in ways that the Empire could never understand. There were moments of heroism, from soldiers who gave everything to protect their comrades to engineers who sacrificed their safety to keep critical systems running. The desperation of their situation only fueled their resolve, driving humanity to defy the Empire's expectations with every move. In the midst of the growing chaos, Commander Varric's frustration turned to fear. The losses were mounting. His ships were no longer the indomitable force they once were, and the humans, far from retreating, seemed to be growing stronger with each passing hour. The reports were clear: Earth's ingenuity had taken the Empire by surprise, and the momentum of the battle was shifting. "What have we missed?" Varric growled, his mind racing as he scrambled to regain control. The idea that the humans could be capable of such a counterattack was unthinkable, but the evidence was undeniable. The first casualties in the Empire's long history were now recorded, and with them came a growing sense of panic among the fleet. The Empire had long been a symbol of dominance, and their leaders had never feared anyone or anything. Yet here, in the face of humanity's unexpected resistance, they found themselves questioning everything. Fear spread among the ranks as the once certain victory began to slip further out of reach. The realization dawned slowly, but it was unmistakable: the humans were not just fighting back. They were beating the Empire at its own game. Their determination, creativity, and resourcefulness were turning the tide of battle, forcing the Empire to question its belief in absolute superiority. The first wave of Imperial ships fell, but it was the psychological blow that stung the most. The invincible fleet had been brought to its knees by a species it had once considered insignificant. The taste of defeat, however minor, ignited a fury in the Empire's officers, but it also planted a seed of doubt. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the Empire's confidence was shattered. The Empire, reeling from its unexpected losses, found itself in disarray. Varric's once confident fleet now drifted on the edge of chaos. The superior warships of the Empire, intended to overwhelm the weak planet beneath them, were now scattered and vulnerable. The reports that flooded in were a mixture of failure, confusion, and growing concern. For the first time in its history, the Empire was being forced to reconsider its ability to dominate. Varric seated in his command center. The humans had proven more resourceful and capable than he could have ever imagined. Every attempt to subdue them had been met with unexpected resistance. The Empire's advanced technology had been rendered ineffective by the humans' unconventional tactics and resourcefulness. His fleet had suffered significant damage, and more ships were falling with each passing hour. His pride, once unshakable, began to crack. "No more delays," he growled, his voice low and cold. "A full-scale assault. We will not be defeated by these primitives." He issued the order to his commanders, his mind racing to find a way to reclaim control. The Imperial ships aligned for the final, overwhelming strike. They would use their superior firepower and numbers to crush Earth's defenses in one decisive attack. There would be no more playing around. The humans would either submit or perish. But Earth, far from cowering in fear, was preparing its final move. Across the planet, leaders from all corners of the world had been working together, pooling their knowledge and resources. The desperation of the situation had forced them to make a choice: either they would fall, or they would make the Empire regret underestimating them. Dr. Evelyn Carter, along with a team of scientists and military strategists, had been analyzing the wreckage of the Empire's fleet, identifying weaknesses that even the Empire hadn't seen. They had reverse-engineered small portions of the alien technology and, in secret, developed a weapon capable of turning the tide of battle. It was a bold move, risky, but humanity had no other option. The weapon was based on a deep analysis of the Empire's energy systems. Using their understanding of the alien tech, Earth's scientists created a device capable of disabling the Imperial ship's core systems, rendering them inert and powerless. But the real brilliance lay in how they would deploy it, not as a single strike, but as a series of coordinated attacks across the globe. The plan was set into motion as Earth's defenses began to channel energy into a massive, synchronized network of EMP devices that would target the alien fleet's key systems. The humans had learned to exploit the Empire's reliance on centralized power sources, and now they would strike when the Empire thought they were vulnerable. As the Empire prepared for its final assault, the first signs of trouble appeared. At first, the Imperial officers dismissed the strange interference as a glitch. But then the damage started, systems failed, power grids flickered, and entire fleets of warships began to stall in mid-flight. The Empire had not anticipated a weapon like this, and suddenly, they were caught in a devastating crossfire of their own making. The humans had outthought them. In one fell swoop, they had exploited the Empire's arrogance, targeting their most vulnerable systems with precision. The attack spread like wildfire, knocking out Imperial ships one by one. Each failed vessel only added to the growing panic within the fleet. Varric watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. The humans were systematically taking down the warships, using their ingenuity and coordination to devastating effect. The once mighty force that had threatened Earth was now crippled and struggling to stay afloat. Desperation gripped Varric's heart as he saw ship after ship go dark, their systems failing under the weight of humanity's strategic brilliance. The humans, in their fight for survival, had displayed something the Empire had never seen before: unity. Across the globe, every nation, every person, had contributed in some way to the fight. The world was no longer divided by borders or politics, it was one united front against an overwhelming enemy. In the face of annihilation, humanity had found its strength in working together. Varric, humiliated and enraged, realized too late that he had underestimated the humans. The Empire had believed that their superior technology and overwhelming numbers would guarantee victory, but it was the unity and resourcefulness of Earth that had turned the tables. The invaders, once so confident in their dominance, were now retreating in disarray. The final blow came when Earth's defense systems, working in tandem with the newly developed weapon, disabled the last of the Empire's flagship warships. The remaining Imperial forces were scattered, their leadership in disarray. Varric, unable to salvage the situation, issued the order that he had long feared. "Retreat," he snarled, his voice laced with bitter defeat. "We will return. And we will bring reinforcements. This will not be the end of us." As the Empire's fleet retreated from Earth's orbit, broken and humiliated, humanity stood victorious. The skies cleared, and the planet that had once seemed so vulnerable now stood as a symbol of resilience and triumph. Earth had shown the Empire that no matter how mighty a foe might seem, there was always power in unity, resourcefulness, and the will to fight for what was theirs. In the wake of the battle, humanity celebrated their victory, but there was also a deeper understanding: they had won not by brute force, but by outthinking and outmaneuvering an overwhelming enemy. And as the Empire retreated, humiliated and vowing to return, Earth stood ready, knowing that their greatest strength lay not in their weapons, but in their unshakable resolve to defend their home. The dust settled on Earth, and a victorious silence hung in the air. The once feared Empire's fleet had retreated, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and a planet forever changed. The human spirit, tested like never before, had prevailed. Across the world, people poured into the streets, celebrating their improbable victory. Flags waved in unison, and cheers echoed from every corner of the globe. There were no borders now, just humanity, united in triumph. But beneath the celebration was a deep, reflective silence. Earth had faced annihilation and emerged not just intact, but stronger. The victory over the Empire was more than just a battle won, it was a turning point in humanity's history, a statement to the universe that Earth was no longer a forgotten, insignificant planet. The galaxy had witnessed their strength, their ingenuity, and their unyielding resolve. The message had been sent, and the world knew that the course of their future had irrevocably changed. As Earth celebrated, the Empire's leadership was in turmoil. On the Emperor's homeworld, the mood was one of seething rage. The humiliating defeat had sent shockwaves through the heart of the Empire. The Emperor, furious at the loss of his fleet and the embarrassment that had befallen his empire, stood in his council chamber, his face twisted with fury. His once great empire, so accustomed to crushing weak civilizations, had been brought low by a species it had deemed insignificant. The Emperor's mind raced. "This can't be the end," he muttered, pacing in frustration. "They are nothing. How could they defy us and survive?" The thought that a primitive species, one without interstellar technology or advanced weaponry, had bested the most powerful military force in the galaxy filled him with fear and rage. The Empire had always relied on fear to maintain control, but now, for the first time, they feared their power would no longer be unquestioned. News of Earth's victory spread across the Empire's vast reach, and the consequences were immediate. Imperial officials, once confident in their dominion over the galaxy, began to worry that other subjugated planets might now follow Earth's lead. The seeds of rebellion had been sown, and they knew it was only a matter of time before other oppressed species would rise up. The Empire, once invincible, was now uncertain of its future. But humanity was not content with simply surviving. Earth, unified by its victory, sent a message to the galaxy that would echo across the stars. A transmission, simple but powerful, was broadcast from Earth to every corner of the galaxy: "We are not weak. We are not alone. And we will not submit." The words rang out like a declaration of war, a rallying cry for those who had long been oppressed. In the heart of the Empire, the message sparked something far more dangerous than defiance. It sparked hope. In countless colonies and subjugated worlds, slaves and oppressed species heard Earth's message and felt a surge of courage. No longer would they live in fear. Earth had proven that a small, seemingly insignificant world could rise up against the might of the Empire. The message was clear: if humanity could defy the Empire, so could they. Revolutions began to stir across the galaxy, igniting a fire that would burn through the Empire's stranglehold. The balance of power was shifting, and Earth had lit the spark. Back on Earth, humanity stood at the edge of a new era. The victory was not the end, but the beginning of something greater. With the knowledge gained from the battle and the technologies they had appropriated from the Empire's wreckage, humans began to push forward into a new age of exploration. They expanded their research into space travel, advanced their technologies, and, most importantly, they began to look outward, not just at the stars, but at the galaxies beyond. The defeat of the Empire had proven their potential, and humanity was no longer content to be a passive observer in the cosmos. They would explore, expand, and forge their own path. As the protagonist, who had witnessed the tide turn from the front lines, gazed up at the stars, a thought echoed in their mind: "They thought we'd bow. They'll think twice next time." The victory was not just a moment in time, it was a statement, a reminder to the galaxy that humanity would never again be underestimated. They had fought not just for survival, but for the future, and the galaxy would never be the same. The finality of the Empire's retreat marked not the end of the battle, but the dawn of a new order. The oppressive regime that had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist was now facing an uprising from within. The rebellion had already begun, and the tide had turned. Earth, the underdog, had shown the universe the true power of unity, ingenuity, and resilience. The story had come full circle. From a world on the brink of annihilation to a species rising to claim its rightful place in the galaxy, humanity had triumphed over arrogance, and their victory would inspire generations to come. The galaxy, once a place of domination and submission, now stood at the precipice of a new era, a new galactic order where no species would ever again bow before another. Earth had sent its message, and the universe would remember.